Let's talk about The Rising, chat. Now, for those of you who haven't been keeping track with The Rising, which is the Hill's premier online political show, it used to feature Crystal Ball and one Sagar and Jetty. Well, I figured we should do a little check-in, see how things are going. Because I saw a little clip making the rounds, and I figured we'd take a look at what's going on over there. I was not disappointed by what I found in the least. We're gonna take a look at Kim Iverson, one of the conservative commentators over on The Hill, on the Rising's program. Talk about why environmental regulations are the reason economies are collapsing and societies are collapsing. Let's see if she can make a compelling case for society's collapse via over-regulation of the environment. Let's take a look, shall we?
Kim, what's on your radar?
Well, you may have seen Sri Lanka. The island nation just off the coast of India is in total mayhem and collapse. Thousands upon thousands of protesters swarmed the presidential palace and the residences of both the president and their prime minister. They breached the buildings over the weekend and have forced the leaders of the government to resign. Now the country is in political limbo, and it's unclear when it could calm down and level out. Now, you might think it's a small island far away and doesn't matter to us here in the United States, but Sri Lanka is a cautionary tale. What's happening there could be a foreshadowing of what's in store for us if we don't take heed and learn some
Oh no, they're on treadmills and working out.
Lessons. So what's happening? Well, the country is out of fuel and experiencing extreme shortages of food and medicines. On top of this, the country has no money to buy imports to supply its people with these basic necessities. The country is bankrupt. It has too much debt, not enough money to pay.
Okay, that is a terrifying look. Goodness. That's a lot of people.
It down. And obviously, when people can't put food on the table, gas in the car to get to work, school has been canceled because people can't afford to get gas to get their kids to school, and people can't get their medicines, they get angry. The protesters stormed the buildings, demanded their government resign, and actually the protesters are still in the buildings as we speak, refusing to leave until there's a transfer of power. Many have never seen such opulence and wealth and are treating their time occupying the buildings like a vacation. They're sleeping on the comfortable furniture, frolicking in the pool, eating the food in the kitchen.
Oh no! The horror! This might also have something to do with the fact that in 2009, the United Nations estimated that there were anywhere from 80,000 to 100,000 deaths in the country. With the current government being responsible. The Sri Lankan government has repeatedly refused an independent international investigation to ascertain the full impact of the war, with some reports claiming the government forces were raping and torturing Tamils and involved in collating deaths and disappearances. I wonder why people would be dissatisfied with how things are going.
Now, there are armed guards outside of the buildings, but at this point, they're just letting people come and go. Now, much like our government here in the United States, Sri Lanka's government is filled with rich people. As the regular people suffered daily trying to get the basic things they needed, their politicians were essentially eating $15 pints of ice cream. Inflation has hit the nation so hard that basically the only people who can afford what little there is of food, gas, and medicine are those who can pay the exorbitant prices. Basically, only the rich survive. Now, what caused this?
I mean, what caused this? I mean, maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, okay? I'm just spitballing here, chat. one of the significant contributing factors to the economic instability in Sri Lanka might be that they fought a 25-year-long civil war that cost the country an estimated $200 billion. So, that probably didn't help, combined with, I don't know, maybe the world economic crisis under COVID, combined with the continuing civil strife. But I wonder what Kim is gonna say. What a waste of money that was. Well, I mean, civil wars are usually wastes of money, so yeah.
Well, some are pointing the finger at China and claiming that Sri Lanka fell into a China debt trap. Recently, China has helped fund some infrastructure projects as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. They funded buildings like an airport, a conference center, and a district meant to be a financial hub. But China only holds 10% of Sri Lanka's debt. That's the same as the debt held by Japan. The Asian Development Bank, which is run primarily by Japan and the United States, as well as several other Western nations, holds 13% of Sri Lanka's debt. But the majority is held by investment firms such as BlackRock and Ashmore, who hold.
Yes, by the way, that is the same BlackRock capital that is currently buying up the entire U.S. housing market, making it impossible to live affordably in the United States on working class wages. Weird how that happens everywhere. BlackRock? No, you're thinking of Blackwater, public loser. And Blackwater rebranded itself to, they rebranded themselves several times, so either it's Academy or ZXE. Yeah, they have different names now.
%. So if anyone is holding Sri Lanka in a vice grip, it's these private investment corporations. But the debt is only part of the problem. In April of last year, Sri Lanka banned chemical fertilizer that 90% of farmers relied on. Farmers protested and asked the government to work with them on slowly improving farming practices to be more environmentally friendly rather than implementing harsh bans. But the government was more
interesting that The Hill is using Tucker Carlson's far-right publication, The Daily Caller, as a source for this. W.M. Seneviratne sat watching a mechanized harvester slice through the jade-green fields around him, eastern Sri Lanka's Agbopura village one recent morning, aware that this year's harvest would only be a fraction of what he was used to. I cannot recall any time in the past when we had to struggle so much to get a decent harvest, said the lean 65-year-old with a shock of silver hair who's been farming since he was a child. Last year, we got 60 bags from these 2 acres, but this time it was just 10. The dramatic fall in yields follows a decision last April by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to ban all chemical fertilizers in Sri Lanka, a move that risks undermining support among rural voters who are key to his family's grip on Sri Lankan politics. Although the ban was rolled back after widespread protests, only a trickle of chemical fertilizers made it to farms, which will likely lead to an annual drop of at least 30% in paddy yields nationwide, according to agricultural experts. The shortfall comes at a bad time for the island nation of 22 million people. Sri Lanka is in the throes of its worst economic crisis in a decade. Foreign exchange reserves are at a record low and inflation is soaring, especially for food. Fuel shortages have led to rolling power cuts across the country. The impact of the poor paddy crop could push the retail price of rice by around 30%. That's where the problem is. Yields will likely be lower next harvest season as well, so costs will keep increasing even 4 to 5 months from now. To ease the hit on consumers, Rajapaksa's administration is importing rice using credit lines from friendly neighbors. To help farmers, it has raised the minimum government purchase price and announced a 40 billion Sri Lankan rupee, 200 million compensation package. Sri Lanka's agriculture and finance ministers did not respond to questions from Reuters. Let's see. We will start paying compensation to 1.1 million farmers from next week. None of the farmers will suffer financially, he said. We will never let that happen again. Let's see. In a campaign manifesto for the presidential election of 2019 titled Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor, which became a policy framework after a landslide victory, Rajapaksa proposed providing Sri Lankans with food without harmful chemicals. He pushed the reform through in a single season rather than over several years, adding to confusion across Sri Lanka's farms, including Agbopura, a quaint hamlet some 220 kilometers northeast of the country's main city of Colombo. Okay. Yeah, farmers around here really tried everything possible to grow their paddy. They applied coconut fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, compost, basically anything they could get their hands on, said Chanuka Lashan Karunaratne, a major paddy trader in Agbopura. Let's see. Yields among the area's 500 farmers appear to have dropped by half. Let's see. This paddy reserve is their savings for the rest of the year. If someone gets sick or if there's a funeral, they'll sell a sack of paddy to cover the cost. Yeah. So they're trying to pay back farmers, but that is further inflaming their inflation crisis. Okay. Well, it certainly didn't help, but that isn't by any means the primary reason they're in economic distress. They are and have been in economic distress for quite a long time now.
Interested in maintaining a high ESG score with its creditors like BlackRock. Now, that's the social credit scoring system now used by investors to determine how socially aware and environmentally friendly a company, or in this case, a country is. Now, Sri Lanka, reliant on those foreign...
Yo, Anarcho-Cyclist 9000, thank you for subscribing.
Creditors didn't feel it could afford a low rating and continued the ban. As a result, food production dropped drastically, with farmers expecting crop losses of 85%. The country had to begin spending money on importing food when it was previously self-sufficient. On top of this, one of its main exports, tea, saw a drop in production of 25% to 50%, which meant drastically less money coming in for the country. With so much money needing to be spent now on food imports and less money coming in for exports, mixed with the pandemic causing a depressed economy, the government realized they were in a bad place and reversed the ban on chemical fertilizer in November of 2020.
Also, I don't think ESG is necessarily super concerned with, like, chemical fertilizers. I don't know. This doesn't seem... I don't know how much to trust her analysis here that they were chasing a better ESG score with their creditors.
But unfortunately, it was too late. The crop losses had already hit, and reversing them takes time. Add global inflation and high oil prices, especially the first half of this year, and Sri Lanka spiraled. There's simply no way the country can afford the extraordinarily high prices for oil.
The only way a government would pass a law banning their chemical fertilizer, would be if that specific chemical fertilizer was, like, killing the environment and, like, poisoning people. You know, like, if it was, like, poisoning local water wells or something. Will she even bother to mention the pandemic hitting them hard? Probably not.
Added importing of food that's also experiencing inflated prices because of a global food shortage, as well as paying its debt. So the lesson to learn from Sri Lanka, and I just want to make...
Oh, wait, let's see. As of December 2018, BlackRock was the world's largest investor in coal plant developers, holding shares worth $11 billion among 56 coal plant developers. And BlackRock owned more oil, gas, and thermal coal reserves than any other investor, with total reserves amounting to 9.5 gigatons of CO2 emissions, or 30% of energy-related emissions for 2017. Yeah, BlackRock is really putting the pressure on Sri Lanka to pass environmentally friendly laws. Uh-huh. Sure.
Make this clear is that these drastic climate policies that are being pushed by liberal elite nations that are going around to all of these, to every nation. It's not just being pushed on here in the United States on us and in Western nations, but also all around the world. Those policies are crushing farmers everywhere in the world. Sri Lanka is one example. We're seeing the same thing happen in the Netherlands, the same thing happening in India. Some of their uprisings in India are also related to climate regulations. We're seeing this in South America, all around the world. Now, with the Netherlands...
Well, yeah, it's related to environmental regulations insofar as if people aren't following the environmental regulations, their environmental biospheres are going to collapse and they're going to have to move someplace else or die. Okay? Yeah, yeah, people might not like the fact that their environment is unstable and rapidly growing worse and more inhospitable. Yeah, people might be upset about that.
Netherlands, the protests, we're seeing the Polish rise up, the Germans rise up, the Italians rise up, and they're all saying these environmental policies that are being pushed on us are killing crops. And now we're in a massive food shortage, and farmers are saying 2023...
I wonder what's killing more crops. Climate change? Or environmental regulations? I wonder what's killing more crops, guys. Lady Raincloud, thank you very much for subscribing. 4 months away from 2 years. God damn. Thank you so much. Very pog, Lady Raincloud.
Is going to be dismal. If you think the food crisis right now with inflated prices, unable to get food on the shelves, if you think it's bad right now, 2023 is going to be even worse. And they're now saying that, Sri Lanka is just one example now, and many are to follow. Right back, so this is a very scary thing. Now, look, the environment's important. I agree. We need to do what we can to protect the environment. But at the expense of what? Why are we going after farmers? Why is that the group we go after and we say you can't have this nitrogen or these or chemical for all of these various different things that they're going out, like Indian farmers are going after controlled burns? Why are we going after that? Why don't we start with first banning, I don't know, private jets? How about we start there? Right? Why are we going after our food supply? This is something I think everybody should be paying attention to. This is our food, guys. This is going to be really bad. This isn't just something luxury like, even your car is more luxury than food. I mean, you need food every day. And now we're facing some serious dire issues.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole problem with a contingent of the environmental activist movement demanding that people sacrifice now for some distant future is just is not a good political strategy. It creates tremendous frustration, and not asking people to make small sacrifices, but major sacrifices that are killing people's way of life and that are going to impoverish people. So getting out of poverty, throughout most of human history, right? Most of human society, most people lived in incredible poverty. And it's only in the last, 200 years where we now have a significant, not everyone, but a significant portion of the global population not living in crippling poverty. It's historically unprecedented. It's not natural. The natural state is living in horrible poverty. So we have to be really careful not to get ahead of ourselves and have these policies that shut off our productive capabilities and plunge us back into some dark ages in order to avoid some cataclysm in the future. We could have a cataclysm right now.
Yeah, I can't help but notice that, left-wing activism used to be done by and on behalf of the little guy, right? The lower classes, the person who didn't have a voice, right? Activists used to show up and elevate those people, right? Elevate their voices, get them a platform. Today, left-wing activism is done, top down by elites, penalizing the working class and the poor, right? It's these vanity morals that elites who don't actually end up having to pay the price for them end up imposing the price, the burden of their vanity onto the poor and the working class that they used to defend, that they used to stand up for, that they used to see as, the people who need them. And it's just such an amazing, amazing reversal in terms of like how you think about what is left versus right, in terms of how you think about the goals, and environmentalism. It's just such a great example of that. I'm with you, Kim. Like, yes, the climate change is real. The climate is getting warmer. I am totally not opposed to us having reasonable ways of mitigating that. But why are all the ways that are currently on the table for mitigating climate change being given as a burden to the people who can least afford to carry it, and flattering the egos of the people who could most afford to carry it, right? I'm totally with you.
Well, and that's what they do. I mean, what's happening, and look, I that's where my background in any activism has been, environmental activism. I even wrote an anti-deforestation or proposed anti-deforestation legislation at one point. I mean, that's where, I've always been that way. But it's reached a point now where it's like, look, you can't tell somebody, and this is the debate we've been having since Donald Trump became president. And it was about the coal miners, right? And saying, well, you're just going to have to learn to code, right? Or pivot. And that was something that, to say to these people that are barely making ends meet, they're not the wealthy group in America, and to say to them, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to starve. But the environment's the environment, and we have to do what it takes. And here we are, sitting in our nice, fancy places, eating food, we can afford it, and then turning, liberal elites, and then turning around and saying to them, and neoliberal elites, I should even qualify this more, turning around and saying to people, you're just going to have to starve for the rest of us because we're saving the planet. It is completely blind to the reality. And Sri Lanka now is a showcasing of what happens when you implement those policies and then you do force people to starve. The country can't really starve its people, so it had to use its money, what little it had, to buy food. Then it didn't have the money to buy oil. And then when oil prices went up and when inflation went up, the country really couldn't afford anything. And it was already in debt, which every country is. And so it went under. It took only that. It really stemmed back to COVID lockdown policies, which again were neoliberal policies. COVID lockdown policies, everybody was struggling out of that. I don't know why right now everybody decides to do moral posturing around the world, and in the Western world anyway, and says, well, now we have to send all this money to Ukraine. We have to put up with high gas prices because, we're at war apparently somehow now with Russia. Why are we saying now's the time to do this? We just came out of a pandemic. We need to rebuild. And now they're saying, oh, but no, we're going to continue marching forward with all of these different moral posturing positions, and it's causing absolute economic ruin. So look, Sri Lanka is a cautionary tale. There's a lot also going on with Sri Lanka that I could get into. There's rumblings of color revolution, of that this was more planted because the government was cozying up more to China, and so there was maybe some inside, there's rumblings of protests are not always the protests that you think the protests are, like who starts the protests, where do they begin? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter where people sit on any political spectrum or what they think in Sri Lanka. They're all protesting. They're all starving. They're all needing basics and they can't get it. So they're all mad, and it doesn't matter anymore why, any of that. They're angry, and that is where we're headed.
And protests can produce bad results. They can go awry. They can be captured. They can have violence results from them. But it should be incumbent on smart thinking authorities, governments, to listen to the laments of the people and not pursue these destructive policies that get them in the situations. So
yeah, but we got to be careful, guys. I mean, with the skyrocketing inflation, food shortages, more food shortages coming. The future's looking pretty. I mean, we need to be really paying more attention to the food supply problem that we're seeing around the world. So,
well, thank you, Kim. We'll have more Rising in just a minute.
All right, chat. Unfortunately, we aren't doing a People's Court or Sagar stream today. Instead, we are doing a The Rising stream today. Get ready, chat, because this one is indeed painful. This one is genuinely painful. So, buckle your seatbelts, friendos. We're going into the crazy zone.
Celebrities Macy Gray and Bette Midler are being accused of being transphobic. Gray, who is best known for her hit song I Try, received backlash for a comment she made during an appearance that aired Monday on Fox Nation's Piers Morgan Uncensored after discussing the topic of trans athletes.
And I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact.
Midler sparked controversy when she tweeted on Monday, "Women of the world, we are being stripped of our rights over our bodies, our lives, and even our name. They don't call us women anymore. They call us birthing people or menstruators and even people with vaginas. Don't let them erase you. Every human on earth owes you." Oh, child.
They're going to be in.
But they're not erasing anyone. People call women women all the time. They're just using the terms birthing people or people who menstruate or people with vaginas because there are people with vaginas who aren't women, or people who menstruate who aren't women, or people who give birth who aren't women. In fact, some humans on Earth owe their existence to, I don't know, say non-binary people. Or a man and a trans man. Like a cis man and a trans man getting together. You know, like, there are all kinds of different combinations. Acknowledging other people is not acknowledging the existence of other people is not denying you your own validity. Yeah, cis women were Thanos snapped by the transes.
Trouble.
I agree with them.
No, I agree with them too, but you can't say these kinds of things in certain progressive circles at all. Look at J.K. Rowling, look at, any number of other perfectly, liberal people on the issues, and then because they don't talk about gender with the new language that's acceptable to a small number of deranged activists, you get yourself in trouble. And it happens time and time again. But I didn't know Macy Gray.
What's going on with this man's hair? This man's hair is sus as hell, along with this weird ass face. Just what's going on here? Is he balding and he's trying to hide it? Like, what's going on?
I had that view. I guess I didn't know Bette Midler either. And actually, Macy Gray was making the kind of stronger view, right? She was sort of denying the trans category entirely, whereas I guess Bette Midler was just objecting to the way the language is used, which kind of everyone thinks is crazy.
I don't think it's a.
Yeah, I agree with her. Trans people aren't real, or maybe they are real, but we just shouldn't acknowledge that they're real.
About denying the trans category. I mean, look, I am totally and completely supportive of trans rights. And
I am as well.
So it's not about that. It's that it's a different category. Right. So, I could be supportive. I could say, and I have trans friends that I am very I try to be supportive of as best as I can. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they would tell me I'm not.
I have a lot of trans friends who I hate and don't think are valid, okay? I have a lot of trans friends who, if I saw them going to the women's restroom, I'd say, no, you, my friend, are a man. Go in the men's room. And we're still friends. We laugh about it later. Ha 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 ha. But then they never come to my parties. I don't get it.
But it's trying to be supportive. It's saying, yes, I believe that you should have rights. But you're not a woman in the same way that a biological woman is a woman.
Almost like, I don't know, almost like both are still women, but I don't know, there might be something that differentiates them, like, like how a white woman and a black woman are both still women, They're just different kinds of women. Almost like transgender and cisgender are both just adjectives that describe different types of people. It's almost like that, isn't it? It's almost like that, isn't it? Weird. But clearly that can't be it can't be the case that you know, transgender and cisgender are both just adjectives that describe two different types of women or two different types of men. It has to be that something else, apparently.
Different experiences that we don't share. I don't know their struggle.
Yeah, it's almost like there might be two women who have different experiences, and there might be two different words for each kind of woman. It's weird. It's like our language doesn't have words for this.
At all. I mean, besides the conversations I have with those that I've been friends with while they were trying to transition or thinking about coming out and all of that, I understand this. I've heard the stories of the struggles, but I can't actually.
And they haven't had the same struggles you've had.
Exactly. They can hear about it, but they don't know the exact way it is being a woman, being born a woman biologically and having to go through certain things. So,
yeah, it's almost like they might be transgender women. And the cisgender woman might be cisgender. They might just be two different kinds of women, almost like we have two different words. One word for each kind. Is that supposed to be an argument? They think it is, the HUMAC. They really believe that it's an argument, but it's just them not understanding how the words work.
They're just different categories, equally needing rights. Nobody's, I think, wanting, I mean, maybe there's some people, but I'm not looking and you're not looking to rob them of any rights.
We're not looking to rob trans people of any rights. We just think that, you know, biology is immutable and, you know, when someone's born a baby, they should be treated like a baby for the rest of their lives. That's the level of argumentation we're on here.
We're wanting to extend rights, but at the same time, recognizing that there are different categories.
I simply do not understand the need or investment to exclude them, period. This is just an imaginary oppression. This whole, oh, they're coming for us as women. You're a woman and your womanhood is unchallenged based on whether or not trans women are women too, or whether or not they want to be included or considered when we discuss women. A conversation about, you know, the language.
You can't say the word woman.
We can say the word women. We can say the word as someone.
We can't say the word woman. You know, the word that we've been saying throughout this entire piece. Or the word that's in the fucking title of the video. We can't say the word woman anymore. I can't say it either. If I say the word woman on Twitch now, I'm going to be banned for saying the word woman.
I don't know about the two of you, but as someone that is firmly in the leftist space with a leftist platform that knows all of the people that you consider crazies and deranged activists and progressives, you see me say women all the time. I talk about abortion, I say women, I say women's issues. We talk about that and it's not a problem. So this idea that the entire community are just crazies, unhinged, that won't let you say women is not true. Are there some individuals, outliers? Sure, absolutely. But what I think in general is trans people, the trans community does have, they are negatively impacted. They're not recognizing their personhood exposes them to lots of danger. We saw so much violence in the trans community. Specifically, trans Black women are killed at like 4 times the rate of
but
other
not
women.
because they're trans.
Actually,
shit.
That's not true. Actually,
They're not being killed because of anti-trans bigotry. They're being killed because they're in sex work and
why? What do you think?
Drug trade.
Again, we're not again.
But it's not no
trans
one.
women.
Wait, what?
Because they're trans.
Actually,
Wait.
Sure, absolutely. But what I think in general is trans people, the trans community does have, they are negatively impacted. They're not recognizing their personhood exposes them to lots of danger. We saw so much violence in the trans community. Specifically, trans Black women are killed at like 4 times the rate of
But
other
not
women.
because they're trans.
Actually, that's not true, actually.
This fucking loser with his weird little smirk. What the? That dude looks like he just orgasmed saying that.
They're not being killed because of
That's-
anti-trans bigotry. They're
Yes.
being killed because they're in sex work and
why? What do you think?
And why do you think that, I don't know, Black trans women might be more likely or have a higher propensity towards being involved in sex work or drugs? Why do you think that trans women in general have a higher propensity for being in sex work and drugs? It might be because we are weirdly objectified by society into that role, because for the vast majority of adults that are currently alive right now, the only time they've seen trans women existing has been in the copious amounts of transgender pornography that they've seen. Okay? And that's true, by the way. That's not hyperbole.
It's a drug trade.
Again, we're not getting
But it's not
trans women.
I mean, that's still bad. That's still
Trans
terrible.
women
We should
are
look for
exposed to no.
solutions.
There are lots of trans women that have very much so been killed based on men's anger at realizing what is their own sexual attraction to these women
Lots?
and determining that they're trans. Robbie, if you want me to, I will do us the favor of having a radar on it one day, right? But what I'm saying is, this is a community that is negatively impacted. They are discriminated against, and I do not see how it hurts us. It harms us as women, as biological women, as cis women, to include them in our struggles and to not go out of our way to exclude them, to suggest, oh, how they're not women, and to rob them of this person. It simply doesn't cost us anything. My woman status is not affected. Kim's woman status is not affected. So there's no need for Macy Gray, who no one has heard from other than that song and a terrible rendition of
I do like that song.
And yes, that it was a long time ago. It was before I was told by Ginger.
a long time ago,
Besides
yeah.
that song, the As Told by Ginger theme song, and a terrible rendition of the national anthem most
I'm
recently.
Curious.
No, that you love
What-
the song? That's what
What are your thoughts on Leah Thomas?
Leah Thomas is that the trans
Okay, but what are your thoughts about this totally unrelated singular case?
trans athlete?
Yeah, the swimmer.
I don't have any problem with that. I don't. And I also I want to say this. I think a lot
Based-
of the
Chat, I don't know who this is. I'm gonna go back and look at her title card, but she cool as hell.
criticisms, especially when you see people who didn't care at all about women's sports, don't care nothing about women's sports in general, even on a professional level, let alone on the school level or these lesser competitions. All of a sudden, they care so much about women's equality when it comes to excluding and speaking negatively about these trans athletes. And I will say this too, I saw a lot of positive support from other girls and women that compete against her and compete in the arena that did not feel the need to go to these exclusionary routes. So I just think a lot of it is rooted in
It's excluding people who have an advantage because of their.
I do myself the service of not pretending like I'm an expert on all things and like I have the language and stuff in front of me right now, but I have seen people that actually are and talk about science and stuff say that is not the case. But what I'm saying is I don't have a problem. And you know why? Because me, like a lot of these people that comment on this, don't care nothing about these sports or anything. What is the motivation between all of the hubbubaloo? I think the motivation is negative. So for me,
I care, and I know a lot of women who care
I have a few women friends. He says,
feeling pressured to use the phrase birthing persons or menstruators, which is now.
I know a lot of women who feel so pressured by this. But you don't have to. Like, I don't know. Publications started doing it just because, like, if you sit down and think about it, there are people with, like diverse genders who do the same thing, who aren't women. There are people with diverse biologies.
Now something that elite dialogue is adapting is say you see it appearing places. You see the ACLU struggling with the even language to describe the people affected by curtailing of abortion rights. They said disproportionately LGBT.
I want to say this.
Disproportionately LGBT.
Overall, you very much so still seeing women's issues, things like abortion and stuff being discussed as a women's issue. That is the vast majority of people that are still discussing it in that way. But let's pretend I concede to the language. Language pressures, being pressured to use different language, more inclusive language for the positive impact of others and people in groups that you know are going through a negative experience in the community. That is not oppression. That is not going to kill you. The idea that, oh my God, I have to say this language that might include these other kinds of women. That's just not the worst
thing. Doesn't that go both ways though? Because for the people who are saying you have to call me a woman rather than a trans woman? No, because they're explaining the same way y'all said earlier. Y'all don't know their struggles in their community. They've explained the way.
Let me put it this way. If you're a conservative and you happen to be watching this stream for some reason, imagine how weird and gross it would be if you referred to white women as white women are just women, but every time you talked about African American women, you talked about black women. You know how weird would it be if you were just like, yeah, you have women and then you have black women. And why would that be offensive to anyone? Why would that be offensive at all? Both are equally as correct. Why are you upset? You have women and black women, two separate categories. If you think that sounds weird, that was an argument that was made within our lifetimes about the integration of sports between black women and white women. If you think it sounds weird and kind of biased and kind of, I don't know, racist or bigoted, that's because it is.
And they talk about this ad nauseum, the way in which they are negatively impacted by us robbing them of this personhood, or not engaging in this language, or insisting and excluding them, considering them as men, even though they're telling you they're women now. They are negatively impacted in them. So it's not just a feeling and a sentiment. It's different. And what I'm saying is for us.
But I'm saying I think women are feeling that same sentiment. Of being deprived of their recognition as having had a unique set of experiences.
And I'm saying that is not a real. I don't think that that rises to the level of what they're going through. I think what the cost is for us as cis women, as biological women, what the cost is for us in using that language does not outweigh what is the risk and what are the negative impacts of us not being inclusive. But nonetheless, I maintain that the majority of these issues are still being discussed as women's issues. It is not true that everywhere, you have to use birthing language or birthing whatever, menstruators and all these things. It's just not the case.
But that language is increasing in popularity and in usage. I mean, you can't deny that. I've never seen it before.
Oh no! Language changes as different words become more or less useful? The horror, Kim! The horror! There are words in the dictionary from 1920 that aren't in the dictionary today, or just haven't been in use. What?
Before in my life, and now the other day when I filled out a medical form, that's what it actually said. In a medical document. It actually asked if I was a menstruating or birthing person. It didn't.
Oh no! And how did that affect you in any way? Why would that be? What? A form asked you if you menstruate or not. How is that an imposition on you? Yeah, a clinical document wanting to use precise language? The horror. Why can't they just ask me if I'm a woman and then make assumptions about how my body works? Why would doctors want to have specific information about me? Crazy.
didn't ask if I was a woman. So I do, and that was a legitimate lab
I've never seen that, but I don't see the problem with our society adapting to be more inclusive. I don't see what is the
I think
inherent
a lot of
issue
people
with the fact
don't
that
find
things are
that language
changing.
more inclusive. They find that
Right.
language really
Exclusive.
I think you're seeing, like it's the
off-putting
case.
and almost just like women are nothing, but
That is-
they're kind of.
It has never-
It's very.
It has never been the case in life that a
Wait. Ryla, thank you for gifting a sub to Stacked Bimbo. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. And thank you for kicking off this hype train.
And almost just like women are nothing, but
That is-
they're kind of.
It has never-
It's very.
Oh my god. Okay, chat. Yeah, it's almost like women are nothing but their anatomy. That's what you guys are doing. You guys are saying that because of anatomy, trans women are not and can never be women. You are the ones doing that. He can't say the word vagina until he's seen one, chat.
It has never been the case in life that a marginalized group appears and starts speaking about their issues and advocating for different ways that we could respond to be more inclusive, that you don't see a large pushback. So it's not unsurprising. It's not unsurprising
I mean,
to me.
I don't know why we can't extend the boxes. Like, why can't it be male, female, trans female? Like,
Right.
like, why does it? I don't understand. We can be inclusive for sure.
But also
by
on the flip side
expansion-
of that, what's the problem with them saying with trans women taking women? What does that do to me or you?
I mean, listen, being somebody who's mixed race, for example, when I fill out race forms, I'm glad that now I see a lot of boxes. I'm no longer stuck with, am I either white or am I either Asian? That's the way it's been my entire life growing up. There was never mixed race as an option. Now there's mixed race as an option. So now I get to check more than, I get to check either the mixed race box or they say check 2 if it applies to you.
Oh my god. Forms changed. The horror.
But Kim, in that example, you were talking about for you as a biracial person felt like you were being forced to choose this particular box when you would have appreciated having the option of choosing both.
I fucking love boxes.
Reflected. But trans women are not. They are saying that they would like to be able to just be included in women. They want to be able to text the women box. And I'm saying, how does that harm me or you allowing trans women to do that?
No, it doesn't. And I don't think anybody's arguing that.
I don't think anyone's arguing that, says woman who's been arguing that for 10 minutes.
If you identify as a woman and you want to check the box as woman, fine. The issue is with the language birthing person, menstruating person.
Why? The doctors need to know if you menstruate. And they don't want to assume that because you are a woman, you menstruate. Because not all women do. Whether you're talking about, even if you're talking about just cis women, not all cis women menstruate.
And I'm saying that is not the mainstream. That is not the mainstream reality, and that's not being forced on everybody. It's just not true. Y'all would like to think it's in some scenarios and some you see it, but it is not the majority. It just isn't.
It's not the majority, but it's
outliers.
It's a rising sentiment. It's a rising trend for sure.
Well, we have one other related topic we wanted to get to here. So actor and producer Elliot Page's dead name appeared as a trending topic on Twitter on Tuesday, violating the site's own policy on hateful conduct. So a dead name is the name a trans person used before coming out. So maybe that's a name from the other gender, and it was listed under the site's trending tab. According to Twitter's hateful conduct policy, users are prohibited from targeting others with repeated slurs, tropes, or other content that intends to dehumanize, degrade, or reinforce negative or harmful stereotypes about a protected category. This includes targeted or misgendering or dead naming of transgendered individuals. And this is where it gets kind of insane. Like, I don't even know. I assume everyone watching knows what Elliot Page's name was before. I guess we should not
Wait, why would you assume that though?
say it because maybe that
Yes,
would
it's a dead
violate some
name.
policy.
It's a dead name. That means
But that's
no thing.
crazy.
Why is it?
I don't
truly
understand
insane.
that.
Why is that any
I mean,
crazier than people change their name? Call me this.
Elliot-
Call me this. I prefer to be called
Right,
by
but
this.
to not
Whoa. You're telling me you're gonna get on live TV and you're gonna tell me that Spider-Man wants to be called Peter Parker now? You wanna tell... Yeah, I ain't calling Spider-Man that Peter Parker bullshit. Oh, Peter Parker wants to be called Spider-Man now. That's bullshit. We all know everyone can only have one name, unless you name Peter, in which case we can call you Peter, or Pete, or P-Jam, or P-Fetish. Peter.
but to not even be
You mean J. Jonah Jameson's first name isn't just J? Preposterous. Dr. Otto... Excuse me, you can't just call him Otto Octavius. His name is Dr. Otto Octavius, okay?
be allowed to acknowledge that you used to have a different name.
What do you need to be able to acknowledge?
Look, Dr. Otto Octavius, also known as Doc Ock, and formerly known as Otto Octavius.
Acknowledge that for? How are you suffering? Where's your harm? Where's your passion?
That person lived as a different person for a long time, decades.
Yeah? Just out of curiosity here. Just out of curiosity. Did you know that Kim Iverson's first name is actually short for Kimothy? It's true. Her first name is Kimothy, and her last name is Iverson. So I think we should all call her by her real name, Kimothy. No, I made that up, Stadman. I made that up. Please don't fall for that. Fuck. God.
And so to say that suddenly we all have to pretend like those decades didn't exist and that person wasn't that person for those decades.
You're not forcing me to pretend that you just can't.
I mean, I understand.
You just can't say it out loud?
No, you can talk.
Right,
Why
right.
are we
It's
pretending
crazy.
like that is what's happening here? It's very simple.
That is what's happening.
There's a trans man now, Elliot Page. That is their name. That is
Sure,
the name that
right.
they go by.
I said
their
him
dead name
and I
is
said
their
Elliot
dead.
Page.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Their dead name is their dead name. They don't go by that anymore. They find it dehumanizing or diminishing to their personhood to be called that, and that is what it is. It's not uncommon. People change their names all the time, and we use the different names that they go by.
Right, but then if somebody goes, well, who's that? I go, oh, they used to be X. I would fill them in. And you can't do that on social media.
Well, but you can. You can actually. You can be like, oh, you might have watched the movie Juno. Yeah, they formerly went by that name, and now they go by this name. But then if you're an asshole and continue dead naming Elliot Page, then you're being an asshole and violating TOS. Like, I don't know, you can correct someone, but then if they go, I'm not using that name, like, well, yeah, that goes against TOS. It's pretty straightforward. I love these conservative folks who pretend like they are just absolutely bemused and befuddled by the idea that someone might have had a different name at some point in the past, and therefore you must acknowledge all former names that someone might have had. Elliot Page was in Juno. Yeah. Elliot Page used to look a lot different.
Media because of this policy.
Did you get banned from calling Prince Prince even after he changed his name to a symbol? I mean,
Well, no. But how do you pronounce Prince's symbol? Gee, I wonder if there was anything noteworthy we might be able to find about Prince's name change.
You're an unusual person. Most people don't get famous with one name and then change it, right? Would you say? What's the story of that, by the way?
Well, I had searched deep within my heart and spirit, and I wanted to make a change and move to a new plateau in my life. And one of the ways in which I did that was to change my name. It sort of divorced me from the past and all the hang-ups that go along with it.
Why then did you choose the artist formerly known as?
Well, I didn't choose that. That was chosen.
Chosen for you?
Yeah, pretty much.
What would you have chosen?
I
mean, did you think of a name? What is your name at birth?
My name at birth was Prince Rogers Nelson. Yeah.
Damn, and we just called him Prince all this time? What an imposition on all of us who just called him Prince. How will anyone know who we're talking about if we just call him Prince? There are lots of princes in the world. Are you talking about Prince Harry? Prince David? Prince George? Yeah, his first name at birth was really Prince. Yeah.
So did you think of Nelson?
No.
Rogers?
No.
Were you thinking of a name?
No, it didn't come to me like that.
So how did the artist formerly known as come about?
Well, that came up through people's problem with, mainly the media's problem with not having a pronunciation for the symbol. So they had to come up with something, I guess.
So the artist formerly known as is a media invention.
Yes, sir.
Not your invention.
No, sir.
Interesting. It's almost like Prince changed his name to a symbol that is simply referred to as the love symbol. And the media just called him the man formerly known as Prince. Or the artist formerly known as Prince, rather. And people had less of a problem with that than they do for trans people. Guys, do you know how on fire Twitter would be if trans people started changing their names to unpronounceable symbols? Do you know how Destiny would literally shit himself, okay? Just instantaneously. The amount of vitriol, the amount of incredulity these people would have is astronomical. It's true, we literally call a guy Destiny. But real talk, guys, if you're like a famous cis person, they'll let you do basically anything. Yeah, within a few years, people were just like, oh yeah, that's the artist formerly known as Prince. Yeah. He had a fucking... People were literally willing to call him an entire fucking sentence. Yeah, don't you mean Stephen Bonnell III? It's true. Why don't we call him Stephen Bonnell III? The man formerly known as Stephen Bonnell III. Did I miss the Trump rally? Ienzo, you did not. Not yet.
I mean,
It's
that's
not
where
the
we're
same. We are comparing apples and vegetables because this is a trans person. We've explained this. The name,
Also, Prince changed his name partially, at least, because of recording contract disputes. So that was another reason as well.
dead name reflects a person, an identity they do not recognize. They find it psychologically harmful to be seen in that way.
Prince
they've moved on.
I mean, maybe he felt like being called Prince was.
I mean,
I've explained it. Go ahead. Listen, go ahead, go forth.
It is interesting, by the way, that she insists on calling him Prince and not Prince Nelson, whatever his last name was at birth. You know, it's very interesting that she's not even applying her own standard in this case that she picked. Yeah, like she's not even calling him Prince Rogers Nelson. She's still just calling him Prince, which is his stage name and not his birth name. How will anyone know who we're referring to if we don't use his birth name? Yeah, whoa. How will we know who Melania Trump is if we don't refer to her as well by her true name? Melania Knavs. Very Knavs. Yo, Maya's Space, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, raiders. Yo, people, go follow Maya's Space. I'm loving the energy you're bringing today, chatters. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Riverboat Jack. I'm a lefty political commentator. I make my little jokey jokes and advocate for democracy in the workplace and the decommodification of things that people need to live in a modern society, like housing, food, water, education, healthcare, etc. And I talk about how we can make these things happen in pretty straightforward and sensical ways. And you should hit that follow button if you would like to hear more. And also, I debunk conservative propaganda and make fun of transphobes. And also, I'm a trans lady, and I talk about trans rights and advocate for them. And yeah, there was a lot of energy on that raid. I love it. I love it. I love it. Very. Give me a link. I'll do the rest. You'll do the rest of what? Good evening, Fellini Fiend. How you doing? Holy shit, you're trans? Wow. I know, Sister Rose. It's wild. I'm wildin' right now. You guys want to see my pre-transition pics? You guys want to see some eldritch horrors beyond your mortal comprehension? Are you guys ready? You guys want to see? You guys want to see? I don't know who the hell you are, but you're trans, so you're cool. Damn right I am. Let's see here. Where did I put that picture? It's somewhere on my computer. Here we go. Bloop. Bloop. Howdy, howdy. No, I want to dunk on Kim Iverson. We're gonna do that. Let's see. Completely different person? God, I hope so. Probably a much happier person. A much older person as well. That's my brother Jack too. Yeah, my parents didn't name my brother something else. They just named him Jack 2. You look like you're in your 40s in this? I know. Look, I figured Professors J, I knew at that point when I took this picture that I was trans, but I figured I would grow out the beard and give it one last hurrah before I got rid of it. Forever. True. John Wayne must no longer be called John Wayne. John Wayne must be called his true name, Marion Morrison. The nose work is excellent. I didn't get any nose work done. I haven't had any surgeries. This is just my nose. The one thing I'm those are not masculine lips. What, the lips I have now or the lips in that picture? Bed baths and beard works, true. If Jack got a nose job, then she might not snort, and that would be a deal breaker for a lot of chat. True. You guys do love when I snort. HRT is hella magic. You look better as a woman. I agree. You're so cute. Thank you. Estrogen be wildin'. True. So is it offensive to compliment your old looks? Nah, that's okay. That guy looks too old to be you. It's true. Somehow, estrogen is so powerful, you can actually travel through time. It's wild. You said Eldritch Horror and all we got was a lumberjack. What is Eldritch Horror if not lumberjacks? What is not horrific about being alone in the old woods, untouched by mankind, where unknown horrors that have never been seen or known lurk? What about that is not horrific? What about that is not full of the old magic, the old ways that predate man? What is lumberjacking if not spitting into the face of the old growth? Of lurking where one should never be, but copulating with forces beyond your kin. Did you have a blue ox by any chance? Haha! Paul Bunyan. Jokes. Thanks for sharing. You're very fabulous. Thank you. You can chop down invasive species, though. True. That is true. I got nothing against lumberjacks. Ethical woodworking is a positive in my in my book. From lumberjack to riverboat jack, true. And you know what? A large amount of transporting lumberjack wood would involve riverboats. How about that? Ethical and sustainable jacking only, true. Okay, let's finish this transphobic video.
Go for it smartly. Go.
I think it's a really weird, especially for a famous person, a person of some notable public significance, to be formally disallowed from talking about some public, and no, we're not saying this is some embarrassing secret that we're trying to spare them from. I mean, no, this is a public. This person was in movies. Was under this name,
it's
under this gender identity.
Listen, for the dead name to trend, for something to trend, people have to be using it massively. It has to be being discussed. Let's not act like we don't know where that comes from. If we know that this is now a trans person, they go by Elliot Page, and there are a large amount of people calling them by their dead name, so much so that it trends, there is a deliberacy in there meant to offend this person because you know they do not go by that anymore.
Holy shit, chat. How will we know who we're talking about if we don't refer to Lady Gaga by her true name? Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanata. How will we know? We need to use all of her names, or else we won't be able to control the demon. What about Bruno Mars? We need to make sure that people know his name is Peter Gene Hernandez. What about Natalie Portman, chat? We won't be able to know who Natalie Portman is if we don't refer to her by her true name, Natalie Hirschlag. Okay? We won't know. What about Shania Twain? I mean, I didn't know until this moment who she was until I knew her real name, Eileen Regina Edwards. Oh my, I mean, these are all famous people. We need to know the truth about them. What about Queen Latifah? It turns out she's not a real queen. Queen Latifah? She's not landed gentry. She's just some lady named Dana Elaine Owens. That's crazy. Chat, Mike, you know that person you were always confused by because you saw his name was Michael Caine? You know how you saw him in like a Muppet Christmas Carol and you're like, there's just too many mysteries around this man. I don't know who he is. Well, you know what? That's because we didn't know his true name. Maurice Joseph Micklewhite. It's true. It's true. And you know what? Helen Mirren has always been hella sus. Hella sus, chat. How is my giant robot supposed to work? If can't cast in the true name of God, yeah. Like, Helen Mirren, her name, her real name, the true name, Ilyena Lydia Mironov, okay? It's just silly. It's just silly. It's just a pedantic argument by lazy cis people to not want to call trans people by their preferred names. We do it for celebrities literally all the time. Vin Diesel's real name is Mark Sinclair. His real name is Mark Sinclair. Never been called Vin in his life. It's just like, how do I know Riverboat Jack is real? Well, people actually called me Riverboat Jack, but my real name is Jack Gardner. It's true. In reality, The Rock is not a rock. True. He is all too made of flesh and bone. I don't know. It's just such a silly argument.
I don't know what is this big. Well,
if anyone was continuing to use it and not using the new name just to be, provocative or mean-spirited, right? I mean, I
just love how these people treat trans folks like demons. We need to know their true names or they will overrun the earth. Like the only thing keeping trans people in check is being rude to them.
I would use the name the person wants to use now, and I would recognize their gender identity now. I do not think we should be for a public person, for someone who is well known to the people, for sake of clarity or for sake of biography, to acknowledge that they used to have a different name.
You can acknowledge,
crazy to me to say that we're not allowed to do that.
But do you see how we sat here and we had this whole discussion?
I mean, chat, Marilyn Monroe. Her real name, chat, wasn't Marilyn Monroe. And it wasn't Norma Jean Doherty either. And it wasn't Norma Jean Baker. Her name was Norma Jean Mortensen. Okay? But we won't know who she is unless we call her all her names. So the only proper way to refer to Marilyn Monroe now, according to cisgender people who just can't wrap their heads around it, and who need to say everyone's exact name by all the names they've ever been known by, would be Norma Jean Mortensen, Norma Jean Baker, Norma Jean Doherty, Marilyn Monroe. You like to adhere to these weird standards that they're being so smug about. you would have to literally call Marilyn Monroe like 5 different names. It's just silly.
And we acknowledge that they used to have a different name. We acknowledge that they had this life before that, but we never called them the name.
Well, no, it's tiptoeing around it because of the rule.
It's that
I think it's
simple. You're
crazy.
not, but you're not allowed. We had the whole conversation. Yes. What is the problem with that? You're not allowed to call somebody by a name that they don't go by anymore. Big deal.
We shouldn't
no, it's not
be
crazy.
allowed. We shouldn't be not allowed to say what a person was.
You are allowed. You can dead name people. I don't know if Kim Iverson knows this, but you can say whatever you want. Kim Iverson, if she wants to, can say the N-word 1 million times every day. Okay? Just non-stop. N-word, N-word, N-word. Alright? You can say people's dead names all you want. That's fine. That is your right as an individual. But Twitter also has rights as a private entity that owns this platform to set behavioral standards for using their platform. Kind of like how stores have the right to say no shirt, no shoes, no service. Like you can dead name people, and other people also have the right to be like, you're an asshole. And because enough people consider that behavior something that makes using a private platform untenable, Twitter has a policy in place that says if you do that, we're gonna remove your ability to be here. And that's just how private places work. If you go into a private store, even though anyone can go in the store and start shouting the N-word, they have the right to remove you. Like, you behaving objectionably is entirely your right. And other people then reacting to that is their right, and then private places in which you are behaving objectionably have the right to remove you.
For decades.
God forbid you not be allowed to call somebody by something they don't want to go by anymore, because your right to call them what you want to call them.
If Donald Trump decided he just wanted to be called the greatest of all time, we would just move over to that and be like, well, we got to respect his wishes.
It's not the same. Y'all continuously y'all are clearly invested in pretending like y'all don't understand the significance.
No,
of
I understand it.
And a dead name. So go ahead. I've already explained it.
All right. Well, we've had this one out. So tomorrow on Rising, my call.
Gosh, these smug fucking assholes. If I was this woman on the left, I would not be enjoying my work environment. Let me just say that. Being on screen with these two assholes all the time.
Colleague from Reason Magazine.
Who like literally just pretend like they don't understand basic human dignity or decency.
Liz Wolfe will be back to discuss a controversial TikTok that led to the firing of the poster. This is the Bodega Bro story. If you missed that, I did miss it, but Liz Wolfe has an excellent write-up of it that she will talk to us about.
Plus, our Rising panel will join to weigh in on the day's biggest news.
So be sure to.
Okay, who is that lefty? We have. Man, we don't even get credits. Okay. Olemi Olurin? Miss Olurin. I'm gonna follow her on Twitter right now because she was pretty cool.